With just 33 days until the country's economy plummets off the tax and fiscal cliff, and there's still no deal in sight, well, we see today a Daily Caller op-ed suggesting that Republicans in Congress should dive headlong off the cliff. Really? I'm not sure I'm on board with that one, but let's talk. Maybe I can figure it out. Here now is the co-author of that op-ed, Neil Patel of the Daily Caller, and we welcome back Texas Republican Senator Kay Bailey Hutchinson. Neil, you got to walk me through this, buddy, because I think if the Republicans jump off the cliff and refuse to negotiate, their political standing is going to be substantially worse than it even is today.
Larry, first, we do not say that the Republicans should refuse to negotiate. That would be political suicide. That's crazy. Here's what we do say. What kind of deal are they likely to get? I think they're likely to get a deal that has a really big tax increase and that also comes with a bunch of phony spending cuts. They'll either be way out in the out years or they'll count the savings from winding down the wars yet again. And a deal with big tax increases and phony spending cuts is worse than just jumping off the cliff. And you're not going to do a better deal unless you're willing to jump.
All right. Well, Senator Hutchinson, Neil may be right on that point, but don't the Republicans have to negotiate? In fact, in the last segment, I argued strenuously that they have to come up with a counteroffer to the very poor offer that President Obama just made. Where's the counteroffer?
Well, certainly. It's easier, as you know, Larry, as an executive to put out a plan. Before a counteroffer would come, we have to have a serious offer that we can take to our conferences and, talk about what we would do and not do. But what the president put on the table is not a serious offer. It's not an offer at all. It's a restatement of the president's plans that he has wanted to put in place. More spending, a $50 billion stimulus at this point when we have a $16 trillion debt ceiling that we're hitting, on top of course, a $1.6 trillion in tax increases, which we knew the president wanted to do. But he wants to have a permanent ability to raise the debt ceiling with virtually no congressional input. It's stunning. I mean, it's really breathtaking.
But Neil Patel, I believe that Treasury man Tim Geithner knows. I believe that President Obama knows. That ain't going to happen. The debt ceiling vote's not going to go away. The new stimulus is not going to go away. The 4-to-1 revenues over spending cuts. There really are no real spending cuts. None of that stuff's going to work. They know that, Neil. What about the art of negotiating and finding common ground? Isn't there still some of that left and alive in Congress?
Larry, we're running $1 trillion deficit a year. So any deal that doesn't start to make serious impact into that is not a deal worth doing. So, yes, they should definitely negotiate. They should ask for real fundamental reforms to the entitlement system. We all know that's what we need. And if they got a deal that had some real reform in it, sure, they should be willing to give and take on such a deal. There's nothing like that that's likely to be on the table. And jumping is a lot better than a phony deal.
Why are you so pessimistic? Before I come back to Senator Hutchinson, why are you? Obama started out pretty conciliatory. You're very pessimistic, Neil.
Well, Obama came to the table with $1.6 billion in $1.6 trillion in tax increases and no spending cuts. So he seems very confident that he can bum rush them into a bad deal. And I think that's because there's a sense out there, probably from the last two times these guys tangled, that the Republicans are unwilling to, in this case, to allow themselves to go over the cliff. If you're in a negotiation where your opponent knows that you're unwilling to have that kind of an outcome, then they've got you right where they want you. And I feel like Obama thinks he's got the Republicans right where he wants them.
Well, Senator Hutchinson, the Republicans are on the short end. They have the short end of the election, to be sure. But the point I'm making is your leader, Senator McConnell, came out with a pretty good reform plan today regarding Medicare, for example. I thought that was a very sensible entitlement reform. And then he said we can talk revenues. Why can't the GOP go down that road, get House Speaker Boehner on there and see how the White House reacts to this?
Well, see, I think Mitch is doing that. And as you know, I have a Social Security reform proposal that doesn't raise taxes on people who are working today, and it doesn't cut benefits that are the core benefits. And that is the thing that we ought to do As Mitch said, we can do Medicare reform. And the reason that Mitch is focusing on the entitlement reforms is because those are real reforms, and they would cut spending. And as you know, 54% of the spending that we do is mandatory. It's the entitlement spending. And if we don't address that, we'll never get this deficit down. So Mitch is saying, I want real cuts, and the real cuts would come from a reform. And if we do Social Security reform right now, it will be very easy. It would be a 3-month-a-year increase in the age of retirement.
Right.
I mean, that's something that people can understand.
A lot of Democrats have supported that, too. Look, my basic point is it's too early for the GOP to drop out of this process. That's all. I think that would be a huge mistake. I got to jump.
But Mitch was so stunned, Larry, he was so stunned at this so-called proposal, which was not a proposal at all.
I understand.
That he has now come back and he said, look, entitlement reform would be real reform. It would make a difference in the deficits, and then we'll talk revenue.
That's good
Larry,
leadership.
we're not suggesting dropping out either.
I'm sorry. Neil Patel, thank you very much. Senator Kay Bail Hutchinson, I appreciate it.